Chapter 5. The Path of the Rose and the Cross. You have been able to establish with us that the venom of our atmosphere of life increases and that the poisonous state in the atmosphere becomes concentrated to the extent to which it is purified by intercosmic intervention. This measure aims to attune the cosmic radiation coming from the Earth and going out towards the other parts of the solar system to the requirements of the solar system, so that the risks originating from the extreme situations in the atmosphere of the Earth will be kept to a minimum. This is why, as we wrote, the Earth is kept under continuous supervision by its fellow participants in the solar system. However, it will be clear that the compression, the concentration of all the evil forces and venom produced by mankind can never mean that the dangers for mankind have now been averted. The concentration of the collectively created calamity of the moon, Lilith, is an intense radiation field, a mirror reflecting back upon man in a concentrated form, whatever he himself has created. All this must lead irrevocably to a generally increased poisoning of all human life relationships, geared towards an ever more acutely emphasized personal and social situation of an utterly regrettable nature. A degenerative line of development will occur, the descending gradient of which will increasingly change from nearly horizontal to vertical. This course of events will inevitably develop, and accordingly, we shall witness an intense, dramatic struggle between the group that quite consciously becomes worse on the one hand, and the group belonging to the twilight of goodness on the other. For the moon, Lulu will appear beside Lilith as a concentration of all the bourgeois dialectical goodness and religious radiations. It is the concentration of human longing for goodness that does not belong to the plan of our emergency order, because this longing originates from the ever-returning and artificially maintained idea that this world and our nature and our manifestation in matter can be brought to perfection. Therefore, the humanitarian groups will try to hold back, to neutralize the coming darkness of the night by means of various measures, expostulations, congresses, testimonies, alliances, prayer meetings, and church days. From second to second, holy names will be spoken, all this, however, without the least result. The rotations of the wheel cannot be stopped. Clearly, it is not as yet understood by the majority of mankind that a way of salvation does indeed exist, a way of eternal liberation for world and mankind. Even if this path were known, it could never be bent according to one's own will and taste, even if one were to use all the concentrated goodness of Lulu. Therefore, the dialectical good is, like the dialectical evil, a cause of destruction. As all these processes are now in a state of development, and we are already completely living in the decisive years, none of us can afford just to approach philosophically the roads of God, as revealed by the Gnosis, considering them from all sides and turning over in our minds whether or not we seriously intend to go the path unto life. And for whether you believe it or not, whether you realize it or not, we assure you that the tide of things has definitely turned. You will find this out very clearly in the near future. You must have already decided at this moment if you will go forward with the group of the exceptionals to the goal of liberation. This is the group which dissociates itself from evil, which isolates itself from Lilith's radiation field, and never joins battle against evil by means of so-called goodness. We do know, don't we, that so-called goodness is a reaction to evil and is accordingly linked with evil. Just as Lulu is Lilith's twin sister, and being related by blood is essentially one with her. They are fruits of the same tree. The group of the exceptionals in the Gnosis attunes itself to other norms. It leaves the world for what it is. It renders unto Caesar what is Caesar's. The signs of the time incite it to double its efforts. In all seriousness, in a Gnostic, magical way, it is entering into a new attitude of life. Group unity, non-conflict, one-pointedness of purpose, harmony in the change of our activities, and new service. By group unity, the weak ones of the exceptionals are strengthened and the living body is vitalized. By non-conflict, we neutralize all the attacks of Orthades and the power of the lion's head. By non-conflict and as a group, we do more for world and mankind in 1 year than the humanitarian strivings of the masses during an eternity. By non-conflict, isolation of the self and negation, we deprive evil of its source of sustenance. The isolation of the self we reach by one-pointedness of purpose towards the gnosis, its aim and its salvation. We fortify the bond with the gnosis by harmony in the change of our activities. The water of life, the Gnostic fullness, is daily and hourly poured over us. Living by it and existing in it, we receive strength, new strength, unearthly strength to fish from the ocean of life. The many seekers and those who are longing to bring them into the safety of the living body of the group of exceptionals in new service. You know this train of thought concerning liberation. We have now begun to enter the new reality, and that is why a dialectical human being, standing at the boundary of the turning of the tide, is continually placed before two realities, the reality of dialectics and the reality of renewal, the reality of the liberating life. He now has to choose between these two realities. You will wonder, do we already know of the reality of the renewing Gnostic life? However, we cannot show you a reality if you are not standing in it. You know your own reality because you are part of it. We do not have to discuss what you think and experience of this, your reality. As a candidate upon the path, you have come to the border of the liberating life. To be connected with the spiritual school means to be on a border. We know very well how the reality, so well known to you, will develop and what it already is at this moment. Our fear for all this and our gnawing search have brought us to the border of the new reality. It is possible that you have already stood at that border for such a long time, experiencing its dawn from afar, that the new reality is more than mere conjecture. The privilege of standing at the border in a correct directedness is faith. Faith is a force, a great ability. It is a force related to the things one does not as yet see, one does not as yet possess. The fullness of faith, the strength of faith, wants to draw us in, wants to persuade us. The same idea is to be found in the word Abraham and in the ferryman of the Styx. Now, is there enough strength of faith in us for it to be used for the purpose intended? The strength of faith is intended solely to draw us over the border into the new reality. If we do not use that strength in this way, it becomes powerless, useless, a mere culture and a metaphysical stamp upon our wretched state of being. If objections were to arise in a person against all this, the cause would be a lack of strength of faith. Without this strength, no one is able to enter the Gnostic life and live the new attitude of life. The classical Rosicrucians called the strength of faith this basis unto liberating life, ex Deo nascimur, to be ignited by the Spirit of God. The school of the Rosy Cross stands at the border, and you come up to the border. An interaction develops between the spiritual school and the person turning to it. The light of the spiritual school, a light not of this world, seizes him in the blood by way of the rose. A process of fermentation, a process in the blood, then begins to build up the strength of faith in him. It is necessary to cleave the ocean of one's dialectical directedness. A separation has to be brought about. The more the one who has linked himself with the spiritual school as a pupil is prepared to do this and is willing to bear the pains of resistance connected with this, the better a path can be cleared by the new strength of faith. Therefore, the assignment set at the beginning of the Gospel is, make straight the paths for your God. When you accept this, only then does the path of the Rosy Cross open up. a path referred to by the classical Rosy Cross as in Jesu morimer, to die in Jesus the Lord, according to the entire state of nature and that of the A. The path of the Rosy Cross in its true form is a process that develops beyond the ocean of the obstacles in the blood and therefore in the new reality. It is the process of the rebirth of the soul. That is why, together with in Jesu morimer, per spiritum sanctum revi viscimus also resounds the rebirth of the Holy Spirit. He who walks the path of the Rosy Cross, that is the path of dying according to nature, is at the same time reborn of the Holy Spirit, of the four new ethers, the four holy foods, reborn according to his soul state and his state of life. Progress in the one process determines the development of the other. We are now ready for this manifestation of the four new ethers in their transfiguristic reality.